That might be the first time I've walked over the hill to check sprinklers where I didn't find any problems down here at the end. Although I can tell that on this line that's not running, this sprinkler's definitely got a problem just because of the green pattern on the ground. The GoPro won't see it, but there is a little egg sac, like a bug laid eggs here in the nozzle, and maybe the water was pushing that out and that's what was causing it. The bad thing is that once the grass dies like this, even when you fix the sprinkler, it takes it a long time to recover, if it even will this year. This group will usually come when I call them, but it helps a lot if they can see me. So, let's see where they're at. They might be hiding out in the shade already. Oh, there they are. Come on! Come boss! Come on, kiddos. Hello. Look, I got the gate open for you already. Well, everybody's here and accounted for. Looks like all the pink eye is clearing up, but I did notice the Bismarck bull is limping a little bit on his front leg. Hopefully it's nothing, but it's definitely something I got to keep an eye on. Take a step for me, boy. Take a step. Take a step. Well, he doesn't seem that bad now, so it's something to watch. It could have just been, you know, because he was walking downhill going through that gate. I don't know. I thought I saw a limp. Now it doesn't really seem that way. This heifer here might be the only one that we did not have to doctor for pink eye. And her eyes still look good. Well, everything's looking okay here. It's time to head back home and move on to some different jobs. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. I noticed the other day that I've got a problem with the cow sprayer, and that's what I'm hoping to take care of right now. If you look down here at the wire going to this trip arm, you can see that presumably a calf has been chewing on it and they've got it all messed up. Now it looks bad, but it should be pretty easy to fix. And the way that I noticed I had an issue is the cows were walking through the sprayer and it wasn't activating, and then I noticed one time that when nobody was in the sprayer it did activate. So I was like, well, that's pretty weird. I kind of have figured out what happened. When I came out to look at the sprayer yesterday, the wires were chewed up like you saw, but the bare wires were touching each other, therefore completing the circuit. The way this thing is wired up, it's set on a 2-second timer, so that if a cow, let's say, walks through the sprayer and stops in the middle of it with a trip arm activated, it doesn't just sit there and spray on them for, you know, 5-10 minutes or however long they're standing there. It'll only spray for 2 seconds until the trip arm resets, and then it will spray again. So basically the trip arm thought that it was being held open the whole time, and that's why it wasn't working while the cows were walking through. So this should just be a matter of taping up these wires where they have chewed them up, and then we got to pull the wire back up into the metal conduit so this doesn't happen again. What's the deal? Okay, that should be good there. Now I can just wrap the whole thing up, I think, and hope that it still fits in the conduit. Of course, when I decide to do this repair, they all decide they need to come in here or go out. Okay, that ought to be better anyway. I think the tough part of this repair is going to be pulling that wire back up into the metal conduit, because now I've got it all wrapped up with tape, so it's bigger than it once was. I hope it still fits. If it doesn't, then I don't know, we'll figure it out. Yeah, it's just too big. It's just a little too big to fit in there, which is kind of what I was afraid would happen. So I think we'll just kind of have to reroute this, wrap it up, and tie it up out of the way where they cannot chew on it if they decide that's what they need to do. You see, if I could get that to stay in there, then it would be problem solved. But I just don't think that it will. I don't know. Maybe if I tie it right there with enough zip ties and tape, I'll be able to fix anything, right? There. That's the one that's gonna hold it in place. That looks a lot better now. I don't see how they can get that out, although if they're hearing me say that, I hope they don't take it as a challenge, because I'm sure they could if they really wanted to. But I can also see the same thing is starting to happen on the other side, just no one has chewed on that wire yet, so we better go ahead and tie it up, get it out of the way before we got the same problem on the other side. Well, that looks pretty good. I guess as good as it's gonna get looking today, so we'll leave it like that and see how it holds up. You guys are so patient, aren't you? You're so patient. Good girls. Good girls. I got to run back up to the shop because I've got a little project that I at least need to get started on today. I may not finish, but at least I'll be started. Before I head back up there, though, I did see a cat in here the other day. I couldn't tell if it was one of the ones that was here last year or if this is a new one that's just showed up. So I did put some food out for it, and the dish is empty. So we're gonna fill this up, and if I can remember to do it this afternoon, I'll come back and set the trail cam up here, and we'll hopefully see that it's a cat and not a possum or something like that eating the cat food. But yeah, good sign, because I know this hay, especially the forage mix, which is wheat, oats, and barley, it was cut a little bit more on the mature side, which allowed the seed heads to develop more. And what that translates into is that the rodents are gonna like this hay a lot more. So I wouldn't mind having 5 or 6 cats in here for the rest of the summer and through the winter. We'll just leave it right there again. Oh yeah, and you look right here underneath the tractor, there's a big old cat paw print. So there's at least one in here. Hopefully it's a female that's having kittens, and we'll have a good little population here this winter. Callie knows when we get down here to the ditch to go ahead and jump in, but Belly won't do it until I turn the four-wheeler off. Or maybe she just won't do it until Callie does it. Just got back here to the house. You can see Callie's made herself comfortable on the back of the four-wheeler, as she often does. And I think I said before we're gonna go straight into the shop, get started working on something, but I just remembered I've got a new responsibility that I need to take care of. Hey, you guys, camera shy? We went up and got our load of pigs for the year. There's 6 of them here. I might get a couple more. I haven't decided quite yet, or I might get like an off-season batch and do it that way. I haven't really decided yet. I gotta kind of test the market, see who wants what, but I'm fairly certain I can at least move 6 of them. I've got them locked up here in the pig house now, which is what I usually do when I first get them home, just to kind of get them acclimated, mostly to the train that goes by. I never know quite how they're gonna react, if they might, you know, try to run through a fence or something. Not to mention the fact that I still need to go through here, get the hot wire fixed up again, and I'm hoping within the next couple days that I can turn them out into this larger area. Once I do that, life will be much easier because I've got the automatic water out here and a better feed setup, although not the best feed setup that I could have. But until then, I just got to come out here 3-4 times a day, check on water, make sure everything's good. And when you're feeding pigs out of a trough like this, the problem is usually not that they don't have water. The problem is that their water is too dirty. Well, that'll be nice and clean until that little red pig decides to get a drink. So this project that I keep alluding to is my chicken plucker. For those of you that don't know, this is a homemade plucker. I built this probably a year before I got on YouTube. So no videos about it, but I did make it. I've probably run 200 or more birds through it, and it does work. But the complaint that I've always had about it is that it was underpowered. So I've got a new motor for it now, and a couple months ago I started taking this thing apart to put the new motor on. I had the best intentions of getting this all done well ahead of time so that when my chickens were ready to butcher, the plucker would be ready to go. But what ended up happening is the chickens have been ready to harvest for at least a month, maybe more now, and the plucker is still here in pieces. So I need to get this thing put back together, get the new motor on it so that it works better, and then hopefully sometime this week we'll be able to put it to the test. And of course the shop still looks like a bomb went off in here, so I'm gonna back some of this stuff out of here to make some room, kind of scoot some other stuff out of the way, and we'll see if we can't get this done. This new motor is 1/2 horsepower. The old one was 1/3, so this isn't that much bigger, but it is a little bit. And I always felt that the old one was just a little bit underpowered, so this ought to be perfect. But what's gonna make this swap a little bit more difficult is I've got to completely rebuild the way that I mount the motor. The way that I had the old one, I think the foot pattern was a little bit different, not to mention the fact that the way I had the old one was not really a great way to do it. So I want to try to improve the design a little bit and make it so that it will accept this new motor. I remember, hi Billy, hi. Every time I'm about to start talking, here she comes. And then with Callie, every time I'm about to start welding, here she comes. Back when I first took this thing apart, I did have an idea for a design that I wanted to use to mount the motor, and now I don't really remember what it was. And it kind of seems like it was pretty complicated, to be honest. So I think what I would like to do is to just make some sort of a mount here close. I'll probably have to cut this little piece of channel out so that I can get the motor closer to the big pulley, because I want to get everything as compact as possible. It'll make this a lot easier to move around. The way that I had it with the old motor, it was hanging like 12 inches, maybe not 12 inches, but at least 10 inches off the side of the plucker. Made it really awkward to try to move this thing around. So my idea that I think I'm gonna go with is to take some short pieces of square tubing, weld from here to here, and then another piece on the other side, there to there. And at that point, I can cut the angle here, cut it here, cut the channel iron at either leg, and then this whole piece will get out of the way. And then I'll have all kinds of room to mount this motor, and I'll just have to build a new structure here to mount it off of. But I think the first step is to just get all this garbage out of the way so that we've got a blank slate. I want to weld these two little pieces in first because I don't want the bearing set up on that big pulley to move at all. It's more or less straight, I think, right now. So by welding these in first and then cutting out all that support, that should avoid anything moving. It should all stay where it is. Should. Well, the battery died on me there, but I think you get the idea. We got the new pieces welded in, so now we can start cutting the old pieces out. I was all set up and ready to start cutting, and I did get a little bit of cutting done, but something's wrong with the plasma cutter, and I've kind of got a theory of what's happening here. But let me show you what I'm hearing, what I'm noticing. Right now I don't have any air supply going to it, but when I do hook the air up, you can hear a ton of air is escaping. So something is broken in there and it's losing all of its air pressure, and when the air pressure is too low, it tells the machine to not even make an arc. So we're kind of dead in the water until we can figure this out. I could get out the oxy torch, and I might just end up doing that so I can keep moving forward with this, but I'm not really sure yet. And it's getting a little bit later in the afternoon. I told Bree that I would smoke a chicken for dinner, so I need to get that started. And while that's cooking, we can come back out and tinker with the plasma cutter a little bit. All right, let's let this go for a little while. We can go mess around with that plasma cutter. More cords. I guess probably there's a part on the bottom, huh? Well, there's a bunch of screws down here. We have made progress. The bottom kind of sprung out here. Oh yes, big progress. Loose, let's pop loose. Well, I don't know, we're making progress. We're doing something here. I bet you. Oh, this has got a big crack in the bottom of it. And that's probably where your air is coming out. I'm not really sure how I did it, but it's off. So I want to plug the air fitting back in and then hook up the air hose and just see for sure where I'm losing air. It looks like this plastic thing here is cracked, so it could be coming out right there, but then there's a soft line up here as well that, you know, those are known to leak, so there's only one way to really find out. Right there. Well, I'm gonna jump on Amazon and see if I can even find that part, but more than likely what I think I'll end up doing is just kind of sanding that plastic to rough it up a little bit. And we'll put a healthy layer of JB Weld on top of that, and that ought to stop the air leak. Looks like this bottom piece should actually thread out. Oh, and it does. Look at that. Doesn't matter. Like such. See that? Alright. Well, that should be a little easier now. Look at this thing. It's got 1, 2, you guys probably can't see them, 3, several cracks. A lot, yeah, I think 4. 4 big old cracks. Man, I wonder what happened. Does this... I don't know if that was supposed to do that or not, but it came right out. Okay, jump ahead several minutes. Take a good look at this, because this is about the only place you're ever going to see one of these. I cannot find any trace of these on the internet. I've even got a brand and a part number, and I'm getting nothing. The only thing that I can find that references that part number says no longer for sale. So I'm gonna take this as a not so great sign. I think replacing this is out of the question. My best chance is to just cover it in JB Weld here at the bottom and hope that it holds air. Even if it leaks a little bit, honestly, it's not a huge deal as long as it can hold enough air to make pressure to cut. So what I've done is I've made some little references, some reference notes on the piece here. We've got line out going this way and then front. So I know, because I'm gonna have to JB weld the brass fitting to the separator cup here, which it's not supposed to do that. It's supposed to be able to swivel, but we're not gonna be able to swivel anymore if I wanna seal the air. So I think this is how it has to go. We'll rough it up with some sandpaper, put some JB Weld on, and cross our fingers. You can see the little brass fitting, it just pops right out of there. I don't know, maybe that's where the air was leaking from. So these cracks go all the way through. So that's why we have to put the brass fitting on where it goes. I've got my little arrow here that says line out, so I know this just has to line up with the arrow. We can JB weld that all on there and it should work. I gotta take this off though to sand it. I don't think we're gonna need to mix up too much here. Got my little piece of aluminum TIG rod here. This will be a great stir stick. Okay, that looks good there. So let's get our fitting in the right spot. Right there. Gosh, you know, maybe I should put some tape over that just so I don't accidentally get something in it. This feels like the responsible thing to do. So we'll just cover this up, because I will have to get a hose back on that. And I'll want it to be open. That'll be better. I'm probably gonna have to get my finger in there. It always happens eventually. That looks pretty good there, I'd say. Well, I promise you this, when I woke up this morning, I had no intention of making a video about repairing a plasma cutter, but that's where we're at. Let that JB weld dry for probably at least a day, just because this is kind of a pain to take apart and put back together. I wanna make sure that it's fully cured and I don't have to end up taking it apart again because it's leaking. Well, my dinner's done. Let's go give dinner to these pigs. Oh man, what is this? Looks like I got a gopher setting up shop here in the front yard. You know, I was watching Ranching Sodak. He's got the same problem over there in South Dakota. Over 1,000 miles away, we're dealing with the same thing. I guess I'm gonna have to bring some traps over here. I've not yet had a chance to go buy bulk pig feed, so right now these guys are getting a little bit of a special mixture. That is sweet feed mixed with cow milk replacer. Pigs actually do a lot better on goat milk replacer, but I didn't have a bunch of that, and I do have a bunch of this, so that's what they're gonna get. Well, cow milk may not be quite as good for them, but they sure seem to like it. Well, it's pasture move day and they know it. As soon as they hear me pull up, they all come up here to the gate because they know it's time. Should come as no surprise. There's about 4 or 5 calves that they just couldn't figure out how that gate works. So they're running up and down the fence line. I figure if I just kind of get out of here for a minute, they'll find the gate. I got some valves that I need to go open, so I'm gonna do that. But if they don't make it, then we're gonna have to go out there on the four-wheeler and chase them. That crossing's getting a little treacherous. I'm gonna have to dump a load of gravel here one of those days. One of those days? One of these days. Maybe that'll work, I think. I mean, that one didn't make it into the ground too good, but it is standing on its own. Usually that's enough. When my grandpa leveled this ground and set the irrigation up, he made the valves along this fence line so that 4 of them could irrigate either this little pasture here that I often refer to as the little field, or you can put the dam on that side of the valve and it can irrigate the middle field. So it worked out pretty good, actually. They're dual purpose. Grandpa used to say that the morning was the best time of the day, and I wouldn't say I disagree with that, but I also very much like this time of day as well, sundown. I think in the morning you kind of have this optimism about everything that you can get done in that day, or everything that you're going to try to do during the day. But then at sundown you have sort of a feeling of accomplishment for, you know, a job well done, I guess. So by that logic, I guess any time of day is a good time of day as long as you look at it the right way. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.